crec que l'aire és un concepte que ens uneix a tots.
Desde el principio del proyecto tomamos aire simplemente como una metáfora de todo lo que no se ve.
Air it's life.
Air is more the philosophy.
I've been really interested in air as this place of encounter.
The air concept is about making invisible visible.
S+T+ARTS was asking us for the first time in the whole 10 years running program of S+T+ARTS that 2 high-performance computing centers are working together with the S+T+ARTS platform. It's about collaboration between artists, scientists, research and technology. So I was looking for strong competence centers in Europe to try to connect these worlds together. It's quite difficult, but I think that's the way of Europe also, because in Europe we have this deep culture thinking and responsibility for culture.
That has never been done before in the context of art-science collaboration. So after the HLRS in Stuttgart and the BSc in Barcelona were on board, we had the foundation for a project. And on top of that, it needed a vision.
Per nosaltres l'aire, i d'alguna manera per això vam proposar aquest tema, és perquè l'aire és la matèria prima de l'espai. I nosaltres com a arquitectes el que fem és crear i treballar els espais.
That is when we started writing a project, and we found out that we needed a couple of specific expertise areas to complete the consortium. One of them was around voice and sound expertise, and we found that with PINA and Heka Lab in Slovenia.
Sin el aire no hay sonido. Entonces, cuando el concepto de todo el consorcio se centró en el aire, es perfecto para nosotros, ¿no? Es una materia prima, la esencial para que el sonido funcione. Si no hay aire, no hay sonido, ¿no?
Another one was around much more the city as an object of investigation, which is one of the expertise areas of Sony, Computer Science Labs in Rome, which was complemented by the idea that somehow these projects need to relate to innovation. That became the role of InfoArt, and a creative manifestation, which is the reason why Epica and La Fura dels Baus became a partner.
Nosaltres estem intentant validar que aquesta connexió entre art, ciència i tecnologia és profitosa per generar coneixement. És per fer millors artistes, millors científics, millors tecnòlegs i per trobar nous paths, noves rutes per la recerca i la innovació a nivell europeu.
Y lo nuevo aquí fue esta idea de incorporar a los artistas dentro del proceso, hacerlos partícipes, aprovecharnos de sus habilidades, que también lo hacíamos antes, pero que ellos se aprovecharan de las nuestras y que se metieran aquí. Entonces son un investigador más dentro de cada uno de los proyectos.
The previous projects, there was always this strong distinction between I'm an artist, I'm a scientist, okay, and there is some sort of discomfort in doing this because the scientists were somehow feeling that they were sort of the service of the artist, that the artists, felt that they had no enough support. So the dialogue was not really in place. But with this consortium, I guess we solved this problem, okay? We are all on the same page, which I always say, the same page would be getting our passport and throwing them away. I don't want to know who you are. The point is we have a challenge together to be sure that to be tackled, and we do this together.
Para mí el concepto aire, como físico, de entrenamiento que soy, significa muchas cosas de ecuaciones y fluidos.
Of course, air is what we breathe. Okay? Air is the space.
La veu és aire vibrat, és aire filtrat, a través de tot el tracte vocal, i ens arriba amb aquesta sofisticació i varietat de sons, de textures.
The body has an immense role in defining that space of potentiality and communication.
I want to extend and push the boundaries of my art practice and want to combine science and science approach and art and my artistic language together. And there was a point that I think to myself that I can't do it alone. I need to have exchange. So when I get to know that there's a project, a program which will encourage the collaboration between artists and scientists, the S+T+ARTS AIR program, I thought to myself, it's perfect.
I stumbled on that call. I read it almost without breathing, because I really felt it was written for me. I said, I can't. I just need to answer to this call. It resonates so much with my work, with my sensitivity, not just as an artist, also as a human being.
The way in which emerging technologies can be used to produce new forms of art, and vice versa, innovate technologies through an artistic perspective is something, it's a vision which I share.
Science is based also on a very specific thinking and describes how we see the world. So for me it was very interesting to see in what way can I change it, shape it, influence it, or with my vision or with my speculation about the way the world works or how we perceive it.
Inviting artists in a facility like this brings questions that are not typical maybe for the workflow that the center is used to, and questions that are not typical for my practice either. So you're in a sort of intermediate terrain, the both of us.
It is the first time that we are in a context that's so open to experimentation, open to the outcomes and the processes. So it seems like it's process-based.
Very process-driven, yeah. So usually there's a fairly clear brief, and we develop internal R&D how to meet that brief, but there's a very clear goal. I think what's been nice here is we've been given space to develop that brief ourselves.
Almost instinctively, especially as an artist, you want to create an artwork. And this kind of thinking doesn't really work in this scenario, because you can't think so much about the end goal. You have to really allow the process to go like a scientific experiment, but like a real scientific experiment, one where you don't know the answers when you start.
El repte de posar tota aquesta gent en comú, diguem, és la mateixa cosa que la fa interessant, però al mateix temps és un repte, no? Perquè poses a treballar gent que no es coneix, gent de nacionalitats diferents, gent de procedència diferent, gent també amb formacions molt diferents, no? Els artistes, els científics, els tecnològics, i això fa que sigui una mica de vegades difícil. Hi ha també relacions com que flueixen més fàcilment, com sempre, i n'hi ha d'altres que s'encallen una mica més, no?
To understand each other and the needs of each other, that's very challenging. But that's also the most stimulating thing, no? Because it can really brings you beyond your normal comfort zone, but also perspective, and therefore affords different comprehension of reality.
Locating the technical difficulties was another challenge, and I think progressively we're starting to know what we can do, and even what we could do that hasn't been done really, by just getting to know better the landscape of, in my case, digital acoustics and machine listening.
Crec que el repte és aprofitar l'oportunitat al màxim nivell i poder estar tan creativa com sigui possible per realment aprofitar tots aquests recursos i generar una eina potent, que funcioni bé, que sigui útil i que ajudi al món a cantar més.
approach from a listener's perspective is really the space of relations where species meet.
How to make the personal space that people very well understand where it starts and where it ends. How to make it visible.
So the body might move and it has a physical presence, but what you read, what it means to you, that invisible process going from physicality to meaning is what air is for us.
Aquí los proyectos presentaron un avance de los primeros meses de desarrollo y ahora tienen que hacer una prueba del concepto del proyecto, de la propuesta original. Nuestro trabajo ha sido orientarlos y tratar de reforzar las áreas en donde creemos que tienen más potencial y no minimizar el potencial innovativo que tiene el arte, pero tratar de que lo que nosotros sabemos en términos tecnológicos pueda de alguna forma no ser concentrado en el individuo que propuso el proyecto.
Now we are facing some, I would say, like a lot of options and ways, and I think that it would be important and meaningful for us to have the chance to exchange with other artists, with other partners, scientific partners, to get their perspective.
I think events like this are very, very important. I mean, typically, in a corporate environment, people speak about team building, but this is much more than team building. It's really, getting together in a location which is totally unusual on the one hand, but also detached from probably useless problems that you have in big cities.
The physicality of it is quite strong. The presence here with others, the presence of the bodies in the same space with all the richness that cares, that cannot go through a Skype call or whatever. It's a very strong element. So understanding each other goes beyond exchanging certain words, but it's really being in the same space, breathing the same air, and like really exchanging on all those levels.
There's an element of magic happening because I think you can see with each project that in my case anyway, your project connects with at least one facet of another person's project, and if that's the case for everybody, which I think, it means all the projects somehow are interlocking and can potentially help each other in super interesting ways.
El que vull, en definitiva, és inspirar-me moltíssim i també veure sinergies. Hi ha molts projectes que s'assemblen molt i m'interessa veure cap on volen anar i si potser, per exemple, la database generada amb les meves veus li pot servir a algú altre o al revés, no? És a dir, realment buscar fer xarxa i buscar com col·laboracions entre nosaltres.
It's been amazing to see there is a huge amount of overlap between the different projects. Sometimes just sort of narratively and conceptually, and sometimes on a very kind of technical level. That there's a lot of shared research and a lot of shared ideas. I think I'm definitely going to go away from this keen to explore more of those relationships.
It's very, very important to meet in person and to discuss, to have free time, to have some very interesting topics. And so that was very helpful, and thanks to RCR architects that we could come to this beautiful place. And I think it's good to be out of the cities, to be in this environment of nature and to discuss technical important points or ideas for concepts or for the society.
Meeting in person also creates the right conditions for attention. And attention is really important when it's about being being willing to go into the depth of a process, of an understanding of what different people involved in this project are doing. So I'm really glad that this is happening in person.
The best thing is what makes social interactions good. The fact that you can randomly go to someone and discuss about AI just because they said something and it piqued your interest, or they do the same, which is just impossible to do over Zoom.
Y lo que más me llevo yo es el estar reunidos todos los artistas, todos los partners del consorcio, juntos y compartir un montón de actividades y estar desde el desayuno hasta la cena y los vinos después de la cena, poder aprovechar los pequeños momentos, las pequeñas interacciones que son las que se pierden con el trabajo a distancia, con el teletrabajo, esos pequeños momentos, esas pequeñas cosas serendípitas que escuchamos a alguien que comenta algo y eso nos lleva a una idea y luego esa idea lleva a otra y nos vamos montando no solo una buena relación, sino que además nuevas cosas que van saliendo.
Des de la Fundació sempre promovem molt l'espai de joc per establir aquestes connexions personals que ens permeten anar més enllà. I farem un petit joc entre els participants, entre tothom, perquè la nostra experiència diu que jugar uneix molt. No? Sempre en Pep, el president de la Fundació, sempre diu que els millors amics teus són els que vas fer de petit perquè vas jugar molt. Vas fer una mica el pirata plegats i tot això, i això et permet també trencar el gel i parlar entre persones. Això és fonamental per la col·laboració entre gent diferent. Aquí tenim artistes de primera, tenim científics de primera i de vegades no troben el llenguatge comú.
I think air is something visible but invisible, vital, important for life.
The space for opportunities, the space of possibilities for all of us.
So much of our effort is collected in digital forms, and we call this data. But really these are traces of work, of labor, of love, of creation. And I think the voice makes that more clear than almost any other kind of digital data. Because voice is never an individual thing. Voice is always both individual and collective at the same time. Working directly with vocal artists really made me more sensitive to how valuable their work is. And so the focus of the project sort of shifted in that direction towards making visible the invisible labor of voice and vocal art. I'm ready to go whenever you guys are. Throughout human history, voice has always been very intimately connected to space. And I was very excited to be partnered intimately with my main hub, PINA, in Koper, where the composer Mauricio Valdez is working specifically on spatial audio research. Together, we work to explore how to compose artificial voice in space.
La veu és a la vegada el primer instrument musical, el més antic. És un instrument en què el nostre cos és l'instrument, no? I és la nostra manera de comunicar-nos. Per tant, també però a més, en el meu cas, que em dedico a fer servir la veu, no? Per connectar amb la gent a través de la música, doncs realment és molt estructural, no? És un element molt estructural en la meva persona i en la meva vida.
En el proyecto con María, el problema principal que tenemos es que hoy existe una tecnología que se llama síntesis de voz, que permite clonar y transformar el timbre de una voz a otra, pero no tiene control artístico. O sea, nosotros técnicamente lo dábamos como un problema no resuelto, pero muy ya en su parte final. Pero la interacción con María nos hizo ver que, claro, ella como cantante en vivo no puede utilizar esto porque no tiene cómo controlar exactamente las propiedades de la voz que sale. Y esto nos permitirá entonces tener una herramienta artística, que es la primera aplicación que le va a dar ella, pero que también esperamos que tenga usos médicos o usos educativos para el futuro, porque esta idea de poder controlar la voz permitiría, por ejemplo, ajustar a las propiedades de lo que sale a la voz de una persona que la ha perdido, por ejemplo, o que quiere recuperarla.
The voice is as alive as our body and is transformed with it. But what if we could control these changes to understand the potential of our voice better? Or if we could experiment with our voices beyond the limits of our bodies? By combining a physically based model of a vocal tract with machine learning, we can create sounds that are physically impossible for humans to produce. Imagine expanding the human voice beyond its natural limits, creating hyperdimensional expressive features and impossible sounds. This research is a step towards exploring and building novel AI tools for music creativity and voice awareness with an ethical approach.
In the future, it might really be possible that we understand better what other species are saying, maybe even translate between human languages and other than human languages. And in that case, the potential here is that you may have access to completely different ways of experiencing the world, like different sensorial apparatus, different cultures, and also cultures of species that may have cultivate knowledge over thousands of years, like we have, or even further if you think of trees, or if you think of, I don't know, birds. There are species that have inhabited the earth for far longer than we have. So what we are looking at here is the potential to learn so much from species that have experienced the world in different ways for a very long time.
Nuestra aportación ha sido buscar la manera de no nada más describir el sonido de las aves, sino cómo se representa en el espacio y cómo se puede reproducir.
Do birds sing differently as temperatures rise? How do bats communicate when air pollution increases? These are the kinds of questions that inspired the creation of this interface. The structure you are now seeing is a network of conversations that are not human. Each dot represents a sound made by a being from another species.
A tree has really also perception, and tree can feel tree can feel, and tree can also even have memories, can recognize scent, can also recognize the touch, and they are really have a communication with each other, but they also perceive somehow, they also perceive the world surrounding them. I think if we get to know how trees perceive and how tree works around that, and how they react to the different changing in the weather, in the air, in the pressure around them, they could help us to develop I hope more understanding about the relationship between the urban landscape and tree, but also to help us to have more options to design the urban landscape in the future.
Movement is, it's everything, I would say. It's it's the way we know things. It's the way in which we measure the our relationship with the other. And so the void and the air and the space is the potential, and capture is really captures the essence of what we know about reality. My hope is that finding other ways to reveal those things that usually we subconsciously consider might help us to navigate reality and also further improve the way we relate to the others and in society and in so many other contexts. So using AI as a powerful lens as well, and as a mirror also, to better and further explore what is human and how this humanity is defined in the relationship between humans.
I found that project very fascinating because it talked about the idea of machines being able to understand meanings of movement. Analyzing movement and interpreting movement is a very big topic in industry for many reasons. It's important for human-robot collaborations. Robots predicting how people react around them or identifying that, but also the other way around.
Samsara is a very long project that goes on since a very long time, that actually is trying to find the positive aspects of technology and particularly artificial intelligence, and turning these tools, these incredibly powerful tools that humanity has, from something tailored to obtain gains and benefits on the material plane to tools that can help us to advance on the spiritual plane, on our internal well-being, in understanding ourselves better.
And then we came up with an interesting idea to make, again, I mean, as usual in this kind of project, to make the invisible visible. And the invisible in this case was what we call the infosphere. And the infosphere is the ecosystem of information, so the way in which it's produced and consumed and also impacting our lives, with all the possible pathologies like misinformation, hate speech, toxicity, and everything. So somehow the final idea with Philippe has been trying to use a machine to visualize in a different way with music and sound and images the complexities of this ecosystem.
What if, assisted by an algorithmic entity, we could experience the emotional ego of our contributions to the infosphere being surrounded by an immersive experience that invites audiences to engage with both sound and sight?
We're interested in how machines perform, how machines can exist in an artistic environment without any purpose of answering a question, solving a problem, just being themselves. We think society needs that different viewpoint compared to the dominant, hegemonic model of AI that we see today. We did some first collaborations with dancers, and then we came quickly to realization that no matter how complex our systems are and all the math we can throw at them to generate novelty and randomness, nothing comes close to the effect you have when you use a human body as an input.
Our movement workshops yielded crucial insights that shaped our narrative and led to the development of a functional custom motion classifier. The next step is to enhance this classifier with longer, more focused dance sessions. This will prepare us for Monolith Phase 2, where we'll explore how the machine responds to the dancer and the possibilities of this unprecedented dialogue.
even when I'm not using it, the fact that I have a phone in my pocket, it means that I have this bubble of maybe a few hundred meters wide and tall that contains my information, that contains information that I am broadcasting, and it sort of intersects with the landscape, with the trees, with my body, with the buildings here in the field, and to me that it has a kind of mystical quality. Visualizing that, it can also help us to understand our position in the world in a different way. I can also see how this can lead to new forms, new sort of visual vocabulary that might inspire, again, architecture or city planning and different ways of thinking about space that can be a starting point for creating new spaces.
Quan ell deia, no, de dir, tu estàs a casa teva, però realment t'arriba l'ona de la impressora de casa al teu veí, no? I per tant, de dir què passa, no?, si realment totes aquestes zones poden ser un motor, si les acabem com visualitzant d'alguna manera, poden ser un motor per entendre l'espai o crear els espais d'una altra manera, no? I una mica aquesta pregunta de dir, home, si nosaltres això ho podem veure, ens farà canviar la forma dels espais o la manera d'entendre'ls?
Using existing 3D city maps of Barcelona and Rotterdam, we started to simulate the behavior of different wavelengths and compare the results. We were able to visualize how different city topologies lead to different electromagnetic patterns and reveal a hidden technological dimension of reality. A hybrid of architecture and information, and a new way of seeing the modern city.
I'm looking on this countryside and there's a lot of space. But the space is often defined by the lack of space, in the sense that my eyes are touching this wall of the building, and this is what defines the space. So with this kind of a search for how to make the personal space that people very well understand where it starts and where it ends for themselves, how to make it visible, how to make it into a concept that has visibility despite lacking clear borders. For me, the fascinating part lies in in seeing this kind of urban dance, or seeing this kind of architectural pathway for the body as a way, as a kind of movement notation.
If I go from A to B, can I get something interesting to watch, like a piece of art or a nice monument? Or can I have a safer path, like, more trees or bike lanes? So there are a lot of aspects which are not typically encoded in the objective data we gather. And I guess what we're trying to do with Mikael is somehow going in that direction. So trying to get a more personal, more human perspective into this dehumanized view of cities.
The kinesphere is the space of potential movement. How far can you reach? I used state-of-the-art pose detection models to draw the kinespheres around each person. People mostly avoid running into other people's personal space. But what happens if the architecture of the city forces them to run into each other?
So with this project I had the chance to peer into the inside of the body and start exploring the breathing architectures and the organic architectures that form out the body. So this angle of really looking at new ways to visualize and model and explore the space inside the body was really a key element and a brand new territory for me to explore.
Él venía ya interesado en la arquitectura de los pulmones y de la respiración y se metió a trabajar con un equipo científico que estaban simulando con el superordenador cómo es la respiración humana y tuvieron un muy buen encuentro porque desde arriba lo que se hace en la simulación se empieza desde aquí arriba y se va partiendo en resoluciones cada vez más finas hasta que llega un momento en que se corta porque ya no hay más manera de médicamente sacar imagen de cómo son esas estructuras. Y Filippo aportó desde el lado del arte con algunas ideas visuales que resultaron encajar muy bien para representar esa parte muy inferior de los pulmones. Fue como el bang más grande que había visto yo en una de este tipo de colaboraciones.
Yeah, the collaboration with Epoca was and will be key in understanding how to turn all the work on modeling and visualizing that we're doing with BSc into an experience for audiences, for general audiences to engage with the product and understand and releasing the artistic potential of these collaborations.
The respiratory system is an incredibly complex and beautiful architecture within our bodies. By applying artistic visualization techniques to scientific data, we're creating immersive experiences that allow viewers to explore the lungs architecture from new perspectives. These visualizations serve a dual purpose. They aid in scientific communication and analysis, while also revealing the hidden beauty of our anatomy, inviting viewers to marvel at the complexity of human biology. By developing accurate models of lungs microstructures, we may be able to predict how individuals respond to certain treatments or how diseases may progress, leading to more effective and tailored medical interventions.
So one important point we all agree on in the consortium is the festival is not the final point of this journey.
So maybe at the festival we have the chance to showcase what was happening this month, and some other institution is coming to us to say, okay, oh, that's very interesting, we are going with you, or we take this project in another project.
Cuando divulgamos ciencia nos pasa a veces que hay mucha gente que refleja, ¿no? Como que inmediatamente si va de algo técnico no les interesa porque no van por el lado de sus gustos. Pero sí que muchas de esas personas, si entramos por el lado del arte o por un lado un poco más común a ellos, aceptan empezar la comunicación y luego descubren que les gusta el contenido. Digamos. O sea, que el arte como camino para comunicar es muy potente y mi esperanza es que lo que salga de aquí nos permita hacer esto a un nivel que todavía no habíamos podido llegar.
Una de les coses que nosaltres volem és que d'aquests 10 residències, d'aquests 10 artistes, que tots són molt bons artistes, i aquests grups de recerca que són tots molt professionals i amb un coneixement específic i general molt important, surtin 3-4 noves rutes per als pròxims 6 o 7 anys a desenvolupar. La ciència funciona així, els processos de recerca són molt més llargs i jo crec que aquests processos funcionen molt bé per definir cap a on hem d'anar.